After a gala is over, one of my favorite metrics to track is not attendance. This metric shares far more than attendance ever will. Hey, I'm Danny Dadarosa. Over the years, I've helped over 400 schools and nonprofits raise over $50 million. In this video, we're going to learn how to evaluate how well your room actually performed. Not just how many people attended, but how well your room actually performed. This way we know whether or not your fundraising strategy worked, and this can help you diagnose what potentially went wrong for you to fix it for next year. Oftentimes my clients leave a gala and they feel like it was more successful than last year. It seemed like, people were raising for money. It appeared as though we invited the right people, but how do we actually know if that is true? We look at attendance, we look at the total amount of money we raised, but that doesn't tell the full story. Think about it like this. If you were, walking by, you're walking downtown and you're walking by a restaurant and it is completely packed to the brim, and you happen to know, for whatever reason you know this, but it can hold 300 people in it. So you and your friend, you look in the window, you keep walking, and you're just thinking, wow, that restaurant is packed. They must be making a killing tonight. I would love to be a server at that restaurant. It is absolutely packed. We should try to get in there some night. Anyway, you are assuming, because you've seen all those people in there, that this is a money-making evening. The restaurant is making a ton of money. The servers are making a ton of money. But what if you were actually able to look and see how much money each table was spending? What if you found out each table was spending $5 and tipping 10%? Versus finding out each table is spending $300 and tipping 20%. That would significantly change how successful you thought that restaurant was that night. Now, this is the same idea with gala planning. And gala strategy and our outcomes. You think you have a super successful event because attendance went up this year, let's say, for example. But if we start to track another metric, we get the real story. So here is the metric. This is the amount of money raised per person in the paddle raiser. So this would be paddle raiser total divided by all of your guests. And the other metric is how much money is raised per card in the paddle raiser, or essentially per household in the paddle raiser. Why I like these metrics is because they actually share with us how much money these invited individuals did contribute. How successful was it from that standpoint, from that lens? So what I like to see with my clients is that when we look at the metric of how many people attended divided by the paddle raiser numbers divided by how many people attended. So it's essentially how much money was raised in the paddle per guest. That number has to be above your individual ticket price, or you have an underperforming paddle raiser. So again, you want that number above your individual ticket price, or you have an underperforming paddle raiser. And right around the ticket price is good, but you really want it above the ticket price. And then in terms of the per household number, the per card number raised in the paddle raiser, that number should be significantly higher, maybe 3 to 4 times the per guest number. Now, when we look at these metrics, obviously they don't always tell a complete story, but they help us see in general things are underperforming. So say, for example, a new client is trying to hire me and I'm learning about what they did in previous years. And, they say, well, our paddle raiser was pretty good. We did about $20,000 with 400 people in the room. We're pretty proud of that. My first thought when hearing those numbers is I automatically would think that isn't a very good paddle raiser, and I would do the math for them. If we were to do the math, 20,000 divided by 400 is actually $50 a person. So unless your ticket price was completely free, that is a highly underperforming paddle raiser. So this is how you can use this number. Go back, calculate in previous years how successful your paddle raisers have been, and then make sure that as we are creating strategies for future years, or you're comparing them to future results, those numbers need to be going up, or maybe staying the same if you already have a great paddle raiser, but definitely not decreasing. If you find these numbers are really low, you either need to come up with a strategy to bring in more resource donors in the room. You likely need to raise your ticket price in order to help you do that. But then also evaluating your program. This is another area of Gala fundraising that we might have all the numbers correct, but if our program is not a donor-centric program, isn't something that our donors are going to really feel and respond to well, then this could be the main issue. Now we have other videos that go into the program that we'll link for you, below right here to kind of help you out with that. But in general, these are the metrics that really matter when it comes to the success of your paddle raiser. Now, I know some of you are probably thinking, why didn't we add in the silent auction or the live auction to those metrics? And this is because in my methodology, paddle raisers are so important to have as your largest, most intentional fundraising stream at an event, that if we can look at the metrics and make sure our paddle raisers are super successful, our other fundraising streams just tend to add right on top of that, kind of just like gravy on top to make things even more profitable. But I like to focus on the paddle raiser because this is where the real work of stewardship and asks and getting the right people in the room has to happen. Everything else is a lot simpler if we can execute a paddle raiser really effectively. To recap, attendance, total amount raised, of course, those are numbers that matter, but the most important numbers when it comes to assessing if you have the right people in the room and if you're, executing your program well, is the amount of money raised in the paddle raiser per guest and per card or per household. Start measuring those numbers. Also, check out some other videos we have, again, on creating a more donor-centric program, as well as we have some videos on paddle raisers. We'll link them for you below. And then check out the next video in the series to learn more about Gala performance metrics. As always, we hope this is your most profitable Gala yet.